Hi everyone, this is Andy from Med School EU, and in today's video we're going to continue to talk about reproduction and inheritance. As you can see, we have skipped over sexual and asexual reproduction, as I have talked about those in Cell as the Basis of Life. So today we're going to take a look at Mendelian genetics. We're going to take a look at Mendel's laws and their applications. So we're going to begin with a little bit of history in establishing our importance of genetics. And more specifically, we're going to talk about a disease that is genetically inherited and that was discovered quite accidentally. So I find this story to be interesting, and I'm going to go over that to see how a disease, a genetic disorder, was really discovered. So in 1904, a medical intern by the name of Ernest Iron discovered that on New Year's Eve he had patients come in that were sick, but they couldn't tell why. So they did lots of tests on them. They would see blood specimens, and they could not determine why the patients were sick. The patients were 37-year-old and 32-year-old, and they died due to their symptoms. And typically the symptoms were weakness, dizziness, shortness of breath, and pain. Ernest realized that this was genetically inherited because it was seen in father and his two daughters that experienced the same symptoms, and they passed away due to the disease, and they didn't know why. So what happened was they took their blood samples and they put the blood samples under a light microscope. They put it under a microscope just to see what the blood cells are like. And they discovered that in their sample, they realized that the blood cells did not look their regular shape. So typically our red blood cells that carry oxygen, right? So they have the oxygen carrying with because of hemoglobin. And these red blood cells, they have millions of hemoglobins that carry lots of oxygen around our bodies. But because the cell is deformed in this shape, it no longer is able to bind lots of oxygen. So then the person becomes anemic. And that simply means that the person has low oxygen supply to the tissues. And when that happens, you get symptoms like weakness, dizziness, because not enough oxygen is carried over to the brain. You get things like shortness of breath, and of course, pain associated with that. And typically when your organs do not get oxygen supply, the cells die, and you get organ failure. And organ failure, of course, leads to death. Now, once they discovered this, this was called sickle cell disease. And this is a genetic disorder that we're going to begin our genetic lecture on, just to realize the importance of genetics and how we see patterns of inheritance when we're predicting whether or not a disease will be carried over to the offspring. So now we're going to talk about the founder of genetics, the first scientist who came up with the terminology and who came up with the experiments that proved his theories. And this, the founder of genetics is Gregor Mendel. So in the early 1900s, typically scientists believed that the offspring are made up of evenly, as you can see it says here, evenly mixing of parental blood, and therefore they generate the traits that kind of evenly mesh between the father and the mother. However, of course, we know today that these are not true, and a lot of the inherited genes, they are intermixed evenly, just like the blending theory suggests. However, most of the genes are not mixed, blended evenly. There are dominant and there are recessive genes. And this is something that was discovered by the founder of genetics, Gregor Mendel. And he did this through his cross of garden peas. This was a cross of garden peas experiment. First of all, these were these plants were purebred. They were homozygous, as we call it. So we're going to go over the terminology a little bit later. However, homozygous simply means that the certain trait is homozygous, meaning that one allele on one chromosome and the homologous chromosome have the same type of gene. So their gene is not different. It's not going to express a different protein. It's going to express the same protein because they're both exactly the same, has exactly the same nucleotides and DNA structure. And we call those homozygous. So here I'll write it, homozygous. And so this one was homozygous for the other allele, which is lowercase p. And of course, the lowercase p allele produces white flower, and uppercase allele produces this purple flower. And what we have is that if these two are mixed, then we're going to get one color being dominant over the other because only one is going to be shown. So we're going to take the two alleles of the parents. So we have the uppercase p, we have uppercase p from this purple one, and we have the lowercase p and another lowercase p from the white one. Now if we mix them together, they're all going to be one upper, one lower. One upper, one lower. These are called Punnett squares, by the way. You should have learned this in high school. These are called Punnett squares, where we're going to equate our hereditary traits and their alleles, and then we're going to see what type of offspring are produced. So here we always put the father or the mother, and then here we put the other mother or father. And then we just simply cross them, and the ones that are in these boxes are going to be the offspring, the probability of the offspring. So meaning that 25% will produce uppercase p and lowercase p, so they're going to be heterozygous. So here we have this as heterozygous. This is homozygous. And of course, all of these offspring in the first generation, so this is F1, this is first generation of offspring, they're all going to be heterozygous. So this one is heterozygous, this one is heterozygous, this one is heterozygous, and this one is heterozygous. As you can see, there is 100% chance of the offspring being heterozygous, as shown here. Now, what's interesting is that despite them being heterozygous, they all had purple flowers. They were not white. They were not a mixture of purple and white. They were simply all purple flowers. And that states that the purple flower allele is dominant over the white flower allele, which is going to be recessive, because the protein that's going to be produced by this allele is going to be expressed more than the protein produced by the recessive allele of the white flower. And that's why it was interesting to Mendel when he did crossbreed the pure flowers, or the garden peas, as he did it originally. He discovered that the first generation were still all purple. Even though he mixed purple and white, they were just all purple. Now, something really interesting happened next, because in the end, he ended up with a mixture of white and a mixture of purple in a ratio of 3:1. So there were typically three for every one white. So the allele reappeared in the second generation. So this would be the F2 generation. And the allele reappeared. Now let's take a look at the crossbreed between these and see why it reappeared. So we're going to make a Punnett square here like we did in the last one. And we're going to take a look at how these alleles behave when we mix them. So we're going to take first this one with the P, big P, little p. And now we're going to take this one with the big P and little p. What we end up with is two big P's, big P, little p, big P, and two little p's. So in the end, we have P, little p, two times, right? This one and this one. And we have two little p's. So this one is going to be homozygous. It's just going to be purple, right? So that's just going to be purple. Now, this one right here is a mixture. So it's going to be the same as the parent with the heterozygous, and it's going to be also purple because it's dominant over the white allele. However, now that we have produced our homozygous recessive allele, there is no more purple allele to cover that or dominate over it. So we end up with a white homozygous right here. So here we're going to do a little recap and have some definitions to write out so you understand what those mean. So gene is just a unit of heredity. Unit of heredity. It's just the most basic functional unit of heredity. Now, allele definition, we're going to write that in a different color. So allele definition states that the different versions of genes that produce different traits of a character are called alleles. So there's just different versions of genes. And of course, we already talked about genotype. That's the allele frequencies. So, if we have F and F, or we have a gene called B and B, and these are heterozygous, those are going to be allele frequencies. And phenotype is going to be how the organism is its outward appearance. So here we can mark that as outward appearance. And of course, we talked about homozygous. So we could have a homozygous dominant. So let's say H and H. These are homozygous because they're the same alleles for the dominant allele. Or we could have homozygous recessive. So homozygous recessive would be this one. That's homozygous and that's homozygous. Now, heterozygous allele is going to be one big H and one little h because the two alleles differ. And finally, Mendel, using his hypotheses and his experiments, he was able to come up with a set of laws. So he had three separate laws in which he described how genetics really works. So first was the law of segregation, and this one states that everyone, so every organism has two alleles per gene or per trait. So if you have a trait, for example, for hair color, or you got a trait for your skin color, or you got a trait for your height, in his mind, in his hypotheses, he stated that the law of segregation, meaning that every organism has two alleles in order to represent that trait. The alleles could be homozygous or they could be heterozygous. Could be homozygous dominant or could be homozygous recessive. And that is his law of segregation. And this was simply a hypothesis, since this law of segregation has been slightly modified, and we're going to talk about in later lectures. And this one states that separate traits are separately inherited. And this simply means that a trait for your eye color and the trait for your height are going to be separately inherited. They're going to be, so whether or not you're homozygous dominant or heterozygous for your eye color, it's going to make no difference on your height gene, that the gene that determines your height, or the gene that determines your metabolism rate. Right, so all of these traits, all of these genes are going to be separately inherited. One gene does not constitute what the other gene is in terms of its genotype. And the final law that has been dramatically modified by today's genetics is the law of dominance. And we've seen this with the homozygous and heterozygous, is that the dominant allele or trait will overshadow recessive allele. And we've seen this with the F1 generation, where all of these are heterozygous, right? So all of these are heterozygous, and in all cases, they were still purple, as if they were homozygous, because the dominant allele was of course dominant over the recessive allele. However, this law of dominance has been modified quite a bit, because not all genes operate in this manner. A lot have complete dominance, some have incomplete dominance, some have co-dominance. So there has been many modifications, and we're going to talk about these modifications in the coming lectures. Now, another thing I must mention about law of dominance is that the dominant alleles, they do not directly inhibit, so they don't inhibit recessive alleles. So what this really means is that when we have the chromosome, homologous chromosome, and let's say we have a gene right here and a gene right here, one is dominant and one is recessive. What this means is that both proteins are being produced. So both chromosomes are going to go through transcription and then translation, and both proteins will be produced. However, this protein, because it is dominant, it will be used more often than the recessive. So the dominant allele has no effect on whether or not the protein from the recessive allele is being made. It is being made. They're both typically made. However, the dominant allele is simply the one that is going to be expressed. So that's where the big difference is. That's where it is expressed. So these are the three laws that Mendel came up with in terms of his garden peas experiment. And in the later lectures, we're going to take a look at modifications of these laws that we use today. So this concludes our lecture on Mendelian genetics. And in the next one, we're going to take a look at classical genetics, which includes chromosomal theory of inheritance and inheritance patterns.